ended its longest ever shutdown after 43 days, but the aftermath is far from settled. With 1.4 million federal workers still waiting for back pay, many agencies are struggling to catch up on the backlogs, including the IRS, which faces months of delays in tax filings. The shutdown cost an estimated 60,000 private sector jobs and disrupted daily life, from delayed flights to rising food insecurity. Despite the end of the shutdown, political divisions remain, with President Donald Trump and his allies blaming it on Democrats for the gridlock, while the White House contends with renewed scrutiny over Trump's ties to Jeffrey Epstein. The shutdown's end may have a short-term political win for Trump, but as midterms approach and another funding deadline looms in January, the drama is far from over. Okay, we're now joined by Raymond Vickery. He's a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, and he joins us live from Washington, D.C. Raymond, thank you very much for joining us here in the program. A sigh of relief will have echoed around the United States. Of course, millions and millions of people were suffering from the U.S. government shutdown, the longest ever in history, whether that was from food insecurity or just simply not getting paid under the federal force. Is there a relief in Washington now the government is back in session?
Well, thanks very much for having me, Thomas. It seems to me that what is going on here is really a fight about the checks and balances and separation of powers that are supposed to be in the United States Constitution. Of course, there is some relief that in regard to SNAP, the food assistance, in regard to air traffic control, and the numerous other functions that federal government performs, there is respite and relief. But as you point out, this is really only temporary. And in January, we might have to face this all again. And it, as I say, goes back to the constitutional question of whether or not the Congress will provide any check and balance on the executive. Thus far, they have not been willing to do so. And in this shutdown, the real reason for it was the unwillingness of President Trump, and his Republican supporters to negotiate at all on basic questions about the assistance for health care. As you know, there's going to be a cliff, if you will, that many Americans will fall off of when the subsidies run out. For the Affordable Care Act. The estimates of something like 40 million people will lose their health care coverage. Those questions are not resolved, and we are not home free at all. We still have an instability which does not augur well for the future leadership of the United States, both in international matters and as a traditional beacon for democracy and the rule of law.
Yeah. And Raymond, of course, a bipartisan deal had to be reached in order for the government to reopen. Given that both sides are continuing to blame each other, continuing this rhetoric, we saw both the President and the House Speaker Mike Johnson blame the Democrats for the shutdown. We saw Senate Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries blame the Republicans. Looking over the next year and that time span between now and January the 30th, how might things change leading to that deadline? And of course, bearing in the midterms as well coming up next year.
Well, I don't think things are really going to change very much. We'll struggle along with a continuing resolution which allows the government to be funded through January. But the real point, of course, is the midterms, and whether or not the American people, voters, are going to continue to support President Trump and his Republican supporters in Congress. All the indications are that the bloom is off the rose for President Trump politically. As you saw a week ago, Tuesday, the Democrats swept elections in Virginia, New Jersey, New York City, in California redistricting. These are signs, but the real rubber meeting the road will come in the midterms when control of both the House and the Senate will be at stake. And if there is some semblance of congressional rising up to meet its constitutional duties, then the entire picture can be changed. But I don't expect much to be changed between now and January. And the best hope is that we can struggle along and try to, through other means, the courts and other ways, have the democratic values held up and upheld in the United States. It is a sad, sad situation when the United States needs to look to other great democracies like India, as in Western Europe and Japan, for sustenance and support for the democratic norms.
Yes, Raymond. Do